Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news on this Wednesday morning. And big news actually, start off with the show. We'll be talking about Bruno Fernandes, a little bit about Cavani, Varane, Fred, what Ollie's priorities are in this coming transfer window. But the big story coming out this morning, and it ties into so many themes, is that Bruno Fernandes is not necessarily stalling, but making demands in relation to the future of Manchester United Football Club and whether he is going to commit. Now, I would say very early on in this show, I have got I do not want Bruno Fernandes to leave. He is my favourite player at Manchester United. I think he epitomises what Manchester United is about more than any player we've had since Sir Alex Ferguson left. We haven't had a player that's done that. And people will say, well, Rio was still here, Rooney was still here, Van Persie was here. They weren't the same players after Sir Alex Ferguson left. They were either past it, not in for the new manager, whatever. Bruno Fernandes to me is the best player we've had since Sir Alex Ferguson left. A player that would fit into what Sir Alex Ferguson did at Manchester United. So to lose a player like that would be devastating. However, if we were to lose a player like Bruno Fernandes, it would only be a reflection on what the last 8 years have been, which is poor leadership, poor management, and a poor lack of vision for what this club represents. And if Bruno Fernandes is sat here in a year doing what we've done for the last few years, he will say, I'm 27, I've only got 3-4 years left at the top. I'm not wasting my career at this club if it's not got the ambition that I've got. And that's what happens with players that are winners. Now, Ronaldo may well wake up this morning and say, you know what, I've done all I can at Juventus. They're not going to win the Champions League and I've got 1 or 2 years left at the top. I'm off. Bruno Fernandes will do the same. Like all top players, they will do the same. They don't have to stay at a club just because they love it. They don't have to stay here because the reality is you've got the best fans in the world, I believe, but you've got one of the worst set of owners in the world. And Bruno Fernandes has got every right, as much as it would hurt me and it would hurt you, Bruno Fernandes has got every right to say, if you don't match my ambition, I want to go. And I respect that. I understand that. If that's why Pogba wants to go, I get it. So this story, which is coming from The Sun, and people are saying, oh, it's coming from The Sun, but it's Neil Custis in The Sun, who I've always said, actually, for years, has had good connects around Manchester United. Forget The Sun, which is not the best outlet, as we all know. And what this is saying is that, and it's only an advancement on what we're hearing anyway, is that Bruno Fernandes basically wants assurances on what the vision of the football club is going forward before he commits to a new contract, which is very similar to, we've had this before, we've had it with Rooney a few years ago, and I agree with this. Why would Bruno Fernandes just go, show me the money, and then be happy to stay fighting for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th or 6th every year? He's got his talent deserves trophies. And I'm not talking Carabao Cups, I'm talking Champions Leagues and Premier League titles. That's what Bruno Fernandes' talent dictates. You could drop him in a Liverpool team, you could drop him in a Man City squad, you can drop him in a Bayern Munich squad, a Real Madrid team, a Barcelona team. And notice how I say squad with Bayern Munich and Man City. I'm not saying he'd definitely start for those, but he'd be involved and he would start for people like Real Madrid, Liverpool. He would. And that's the level of what he wants to play. So in a way, I see this as a positive because I don't think Bruno Fernandes is a mercenary. I don't think Bruno Fernandes will just sign a contract and say, yeah, I'm happy to fight for 4th place. I think he wants to win. You can tell that. He wants to win. It's football with Bruno. You see that when he comes off the pitch. He's frustrated when things haven't gone his way. He wants to win. And this is why I wanted him at the club, because he's not only does he get goals and assists, he's got the perfect mentality. So it's over to Manchester United. They've got to give these players the platform to succeed and reach their dreams. Mark, been watching you since 2008. Respect your grind and passion for the club. Love from Singapore, says Ian. Thank you very much. And sorry, a bit off topic, but are you doing a Barcelona versus PSG watch on? Thanks for the content, by the way. Hope you and the family are well. I'm not doing a PSG Barcelona watch along. The game's dead. I'll probably do Liverpool later on. Yeah. So bringing it back to that. And also, can I just say as well, we've got to be a little bit fair. We've got to be a little bit careful as a fan base, I think, as well, because for differing reasons, we could lose what I would say are key players at Manchester United. We know what the British media are like. They're Brexit FC. They champion the English players and think that's the way to go. We've seen it with Henderson over De Gea. We've seen it with Pogba get out. We've seen it with Bruno getting criticised. We've seen it with Martial. And as we know, there's many English players who have been shitter than all those players who never get a mention at all. But what I would say to you is, pick the pips out of this. for differing reasons, we might not have in a year by the start, not next season, the season after. So in 18 months, we might not have Pogba, Bruno, De Gea, Martial, 4 players gone, all foreign players. I'm sure the British media will be overjoyed by that, but what would we lose from that? Well, people might say, well, De Gea, Henderson could come on and be one of the best goalkeepers world. Okay, I'll give you that one. Martial, people could say, well, he's a little bit inconsistent. Pogba and Bruno, I mean, what you're basically saying is, let's lose Bruno, De Gea, Martial and Pogba, and let's replace them with Henderson, Rashford, McTominay, and God knows who else. Like, with all due respect to those British lads, do they strike you as top-end players that are going to win trophies around the world? Maybe in the case of Rashford, maybe Henderson can go to that level. But if you lose Pogba and you lose Bruno especially, you lose... and actually De Gea is one of the only players that we've got who've won a Premier League trophy, which people seem to forget. But if you lose quality like that, you can jump on the Brexit FC media if you like, but the reality is these players are... They're maybe dividers, maybe people don't like foreign players, I don't know what it is, but the reality is if you lose the quality of Pogba and Bruno Fernandes over the next 18 months, what are we going to replace them with then? Because we never replaced Ronaldo. What always makes me laugh about this football club is throughout the Glazer campaign, when do we ever replace top quality players? And Ronaldo was the best player in the world, and we replaced him with bloody Michael Owen. I mean, so anybody who says, well, yeah, Pogba... I mean, this happened with Herrera on a lower level, didn't it? Oh, don't worry about Herrera going because we'll replace him. Did we? No, we didn't. So we've got to try and retain these players. And the only way we're going to retain these players, because they're good players... I mean, whatever you think about Pogba, he's a World Cup winner and he's ambitious. Bruno's ambitious. Whatever you think... Manchester United have got to try and keep these players at this club, and the only way they're going to keep them is by showing ambition. And I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great because they will be exposed. They will be exposed as a football club if these players decide they want to go. If Pogba doesn't want to stay here, then that just shows a lack of ambition by the club. If Pogba, and I think Bruno will look at that Pogba situation as well. Bruno knows his job and his team is better with him and Pogba in it than it is with just him in it. He knows that. Whatever you think about Pogba, Bruno knows United are a better team with Pogba in it and him in it. So if Pogba's walking out the door this summer, what are you doing to replace him? And I think Bruno is a leader. He is the real captain of that club, in my opinion. He is the real leader of that club. I don't think he's just going to sign a contract because they give him another 100 grand a week. I think he's going to say, well, you know what? You may be going to give me another 100 grand a week, but in a year's time, I know plenty of clubs will give me 200 grand a week more than what you're giving me. I want to stay at this club if you're ambitious. So we'll see what happens there. Won't happen, but put your Woodward shoes on, says Mark. United will lock him down for a 3-year contract in the next 12 months. United will protect his post-COVID value and then sell, says Mark. And we don't have a blockbuster manager. If we don't show an ambition as well, it's going to get harder and harder to bring top talent to the club, says Simran. Well, what feeds nicely into that as well, and I do want to get into some of your comments, but look, I want Bruno to stay. He's my favourite player, but I have said this for a while. Don't worry about Bruno this summer. Worry about Bruno next summer, because next season, if he does what he's done this season, but the club continues to be miles away, that's just what big clubs do. Whether it's Bayern Munich, Juventus, Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, they will go, who are the best players in Europe at the moment? Bruno Fernandes. Okay. Is he happy at Manchester United? Wouldn't have thought so. They're never going to win anything. Yeah, start tapping him up, and that will happen. I don't need to. I'm not being sensationalist. I'm not being over the top. He is one of the best performers in Europe at the moment, and clubs will look at him at the end of next season if United are not showing any ambition. And if United haven't got their eyes open to that, well, you know what? They're sleeping. Bruno clearly doesn't trust the defence. Versus Palace, he was down on centre-back position several times. He's dropping too deep, which hurts our attacks, says John. And hi, Mark, do you think Ollie's inability to attract players in the transfer market affects our signings as compared to someone like Mourinho, says Aditya? No, I don't. Jadon Sancho was desperate to come to Manchester United last summer. That's not anything to do with the board. I think Jude Bellingham was happy to come to Manchester United, having met Solskjaer. That was down to the board that it fell apart. Erling Haaland was probably happy to come to Manchester United. That was down to the board that it fell apart. So Hurlings, Bellingham, Sancho, In my opinion, that's all down to the board. There was enough evidence to suggest that those three players, especially the case of Sancho and Haaland, were happy to come and play for Solskjaer, and the board messed it up. So I think that's the problem. I really hope we do some business with Dortmund this summer, because in a year or two's time, we should be moving hell on earth to sign Bellingham, says Joshua Bellwater. I think Bellingham made the right decision for his career, Joshua. He's playing first-team football for Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. He would be in our reserves if he'd come to us, let's be honest. But I just want to say this. Lloyd says Eze from Palace would be someone to look at on the wing. He is a good player. I want to say this. Just on from that Bruno story, there's a story in The Athletic today about Manchester United not looking for a replacement for Fred at the moment. And then also in The Telegraph, they're saying that Manchester United's priority positions are striker and centre-back. I mean, look, does this not go in hand? Bruno Fernandes is like, what's your plan to make this team better if I'm going to stay here? And all we're hearing from United at the moment is this Haaland obsession, which I think is stupid. And I know not many people agree with me that, but I cannot swallow this Galactico approach from Manchester United, this stupidity approach of looking to spend over £100 million on Erling Haaland, who is managed by Mino Raiola, who would only stay with us for a couple of years and is a striker when we need to build a bloody team. And I think this fits in lovely with Bruno Fernandes. We do need a centre-back, but why is a striker the second priority position now? Who the hell is going to play in the midfield? And is this not intrinsically linked to what Bruno Fernandes' future might be? If he looks at that team and goes, what are we doing this summer then? Centre-back and a striker. All right, that's great. Who's giving me the ball from the midfield then? Because if you're picking McFred or Matic and Pogba's leaving, who the fuck is giving me the ball from the midfield? I don't care how good your centre-back is and how good your striker is. We haven't got a centre defensive midfielder. How can we not be prioritising this position? It absolutely amazes me that Manchester United do not appear to be linked to any centre defensive midfielders. That doesn't mean we're not going to buy anybody, but as we know, Manchester United leak like a sieve, and we are not strongly linked to any centre defensive midfielders. Strikers, yes. Centre-backs, yes. Right wingers, yes. It isn't a cliche to say that football games are won and lost in the midfield. And Manchester United's midfield is redundant. It hasn't got the players it needs. McTominay potentially is a box-to-box player off the bench if Pogba stays. If he starts, I think there's a drop-off, but maybe he can build into that career. Van der Beek, the same. But in centre defensive midfield, McTominay will never be a centre defensive midfielder of the quality we want because it's not even his best position. Fred is an old-style box-to-box player who actually isn't very good at shielding the defence and can't score or create, but has got a good engine. And I mean, Fred is basically, I wouldn't even say Mark Noble. Fred is probably, I'm trying to think. I can't think what Fred is. I cannot think who Fred reminds me of, because every player I think of, I go, well, actually, they were quite good centre defensive midfielders. I don't know. I can't think of a modern day player that Fred reminds me of, because he can't pass and he can't create and he can't shield his defence. He's just very tenacious and good in the tackle. And Matic is toast. So, I mean, what is the future? So who is the CDO? I can't believe that we've got Michael Carrick as assistant coach and we haven't highlighted the most important position. Michael Carrick ran that United team. He shielded the defence, he took the ball off the defence and he fed the attack. We've got nobody to do that. Apart from trying some miracle cure. I mean, they may as well go round to Pep's house with some shampoo and say Miracle Grow on it, because we're not going to cultivate a centre defensive midfielder of the quality a title-winning side needs from Matic, Fred or McTominay. For different reasons, none of them are going to ever be able to do it. They might do it, but they won't ever be good enough to do it to the level we need to be. We need to buy a centre defensive midfielder, and you know, I think if I'm wise to this and you're wise to this, Bruno Fernandes is going to be wise to this. We haven't got anybody. And people say, well, what if Paul Pogba stays? But if Pogba stays, he still needs the Kante next to him. He still needs the specialist centre defensive midfielder. I don't know what Man United's problem is. It's like we're allergic to anything we really need, beginning with D. Director of football, absolutely essential. Now, we won't get one of them. Defensive midfielder, essential. We won't get one of them. Absolutely essential. Should be priority number one with a centre-back, and we're hearing nothing about it. And it terrifies me. It terrifies me as a Manchester United fan that we are waking up every morning to striker stories. And I'm like, you know what? I'd love to sign Mbappe. I'd love to sign Neymar. I'd love to sign Haaland. I'd love to bring Ronaldo back. But God, we're not thick Football fans are not thick these days. They're not media led. They've got eyes, they've got ears, they watch games, they listen, they create their own opinions. Manchester United are crying out for a centre defensive midfielder, and it gets absolutely no coverage at all. It's like the centre-back situation with Maguire and Lindelof. Ex-players, mainstream media, they started picking up on it 2 weeks ago. You lot have been picking up on it for about 8 months. At the start of next season, they'll probably start talking about a CDM, which we know we need right now. I feel like a lot of our attacks feed from Luke Shaw's engine. If we just had one decent CDM, we could create more midfield instead of having 6 defenders. Kieran, I'll say something controversial again here. You give me Jorginho from Chelsea, you will see a massive improvement from Manchester United. I don't even think he's that good. And Chelsea fans would probably say, take him. But you give me Jorginho from Chelsea, and I'll tell him to just sit in front of our back four, shield it, and then take the ball off it and feed the attack. Oh my God, you would see a huge improvement. And he's not even that good, but we need that type of player. We actually haven't got somebody. I mean, McTominay does it, he's too slow and he can't pass through the lines. Fred does it, he gives the opposition the ball. Matic does it, he's too slow and he's past it. Give me Jorginho. I'm not even bloody joking. Give me that Jorginho and I'll tell you what, I'll guarantee you would see a massive improvement in United simply because it's somebody who can do the role that we need. I mean, Rodri, was he the world's best player when Man City bought him? No, Pep Guardiola saw a player that would do a job. And sometimes it's about jobs. It's not about sensational signings. It's about jobs. What does Haaland bring to the team? He brings world-class ability, but Cavani brings that if he can keep him fit. Martial can do that. But what Haaland can't bring is somebody who can take the ball off the back four and shield it. We need to prove ourselves to world-class talent before we can attract it, regardless of our name. 2013 was a long time ago, says Mark Perellas. And just on Haaland, I'll keep reiterating this. Waste of time. We can't do that deal anyway. I think we should be looking at the likes of Zakaria for CDM, seeing as the Gladbach coach has left their club. Can you call my friend Oanzia Pratt, says Live Nater. And Pogba, Matic and Herrera was the reason Oli played 4-3-3 in the beginning. We need to revert to 4-3-3 rather than continuing 4-2-3-1. Varane, I actually agree with you. We need one. If we had a centre defensive midfielder, we could bin off McFred and we could just play one CDM. Then you can play with 2 more attacking midfielders, certainly more of a box-to-box player, which would bring Van der Beek into the equation more. It would allow McTominay to go forward more if he played it. Obviously, if Pogba stays, he can play it with Bruno. We play 2 as a pivot. You want to play 1 as a pivot and 2 more box-to-box players. And Bruno can do that, and definitely Pogba can do that. But we haven't got a CDM to do it. We haven't got a CDM to do it, and it really annoys me because it's a very, very important position. It's almost becoming the priority position for me now. Can't stand that start next season with Martial number 9, says Robert McCormack. We can't. Yeah, but Robert, we can't go into next season with that midfield. We cannot go into that next season with that midfield. It is crap. It is really not good enough. We beat Man City on Sunday, and everyone is really happy. But the 2 players we beat Man City, but two of our players didn't even get 6. I think McTominay got 6 and McTominay got a 5. So we beat Man City with a midfield pivot that wasn't even very good. Imagine if we had a midfield pivot. It would be, and that midfield pivot should be a 1. If you look at what Man City do, it's Rodri as the 1, and then you've got De Bruyne and Gundogan as the box-to-box players, and it works really well. That's what Man United should be looking to do. Can we blame young players for choosing Dortmund over United when we compare treatment of Van der Beek to skyrocketing values of players showing their quality, says Matthew Perrott. Well, we'll see about that. But Moada says at the end of last season, you were saying we have the best midfield in the league. But Moada, 20 years ago I was at school. What are you talking about? So on that statement, you're saying that things don't never change. 10 years ago, there's players that have retired that were brilliant. A year's a long time. A year is a long time. And a year ago, we had Matic, Bruno and Pogba. And it worked really well. The big problem is it's Matic. I'll answer your question there. It's Matic. Matic is the problem. He's just disappeared. If you could get Matic back of a year ago, or even 2 years ago when we had Matic, Herrera and Pogba, that was a very good midfield as well. Matic, Pogba and Bruno, very good midfield. The problem is the disappearance of Matic, the decline of Matic, the disintegration of Matic. That's the problem. So I don't know what your point is. I don't know whether you're trying to go, oh, a year ago you said this and now you're saying that. Yeah, a year ago I had a different fucking opinion. Because a year ago we actually did have a very good midfield. Now we haven't. And the problem is Matic. Matic is done. Like, for me, if we could have a decent... If Matic was good, bye-bye McFred, get on the bench. You know, it's Matic, Pogba and Bruno again. But unfortunately, for most of this season, it's been McFred. And even when Pogba, like Ricky said the other day, even when Pogba's fit, he's being put on the wing because we're picking McFred. I mean, they're just not good enough. That's the bottom line. If that's the future of Manchester United, you better get used to Carabao Cups, because it ain't going to be Premier League Cups, Premier League trophies. Not with a midfield pivot like that. It ain't good enough. We need a CDM, in my opinion. I feel like the board feel that CDM isn't an attractive position. It won't generate as much hype as a top striker because the club is run poorly. I don't know what's going on, Mark. I can't believe that people like Michael Carrick and Darren Fletcher and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer don't realise we need a CDM, or they think they've got one in Fred and McTominay. That's even scarier. Do you believe Donny has no future as at the club under Ollie? Says trading with Kieran. I don't know, mate. I don't know. I don't really see what the future is. And to be honest with you, I think if we bought a CDM, Donny's future at the club would be better, because we wouldn't have to play a pivot of two. So, who was the last world-class talent in their prime that we signed? It doesn't happen now, says Mark. Pogba. Pogba for me. Mark, we won't get a CDM because of our incompetent board. Don't get your blood pressure high, pointless. But if we get a centre back and a right winger, would you be happy? I won't be, says Ronnie. I think we need. I think we would improve with a centre back and a right winger, but I do think we need a centre defensive midfielder, because unlike other areas of this team, we don't really have anything coming through from the youth. And centre defensive midfielder is a massive position. And yeah, Garner's on loan at Forest, but he's not ready to take that position. Ollie wouldn't use him in that position, so we've got nothing coming through. Anyway, we'll move on. Just very quickly about Cavani. I know Flex and KG were talking about it last night. This Instagram post from his dad saying that he wants to come home and everything like that. I think there's a little bit lost in translation there. We were talking about this morning in the group chat. There's a little bit lost in translation there, and Cavani's come out and basically said that he's happy at United. I mean, I think everything's possible. I think he could go home in the summer. I think Cavani could stay at Man United for another year. Man United are clearly looking for another striker. If they're going to buy a striker, Cavani's going to go. So you're not going to buy a striker and keep Cavani. He's a very expensive player to play a bit part. And I think for me, the problem with Cavani is the problem with Cavani when I said about buying him. People just don't want to wake up to this. I said the reason I don't want Cavani is his age and his injury record. I just don't think it's worth doing it. And ultimately, it's not far off getting to that, is it? When is he back? We'll find out on Ollie's press conference at lunchtime, but he hasn't played against Man City this season, and he probably won't do now unless we play him in the FA Cup, and that to me is not good enough for any player. He's a first-team player, Cavani. We know that. I mean, Martial was brilliant at the weekend, but to be honest with you, that wasn't expected. He's not been playing well this season, so it's only because Martial played well at the weekend that people are going, well, Cavani being out didn't matter. We massively miss Cavani. He's become our number 9, and I only see these injuries becoming more and more regular. And I think, to be honest with you, the Premier League and Cavani was never a good fit. It's way more demanding than anything he's done for the last few years, because the French League just isn't that demanding. So I think that Cavani could well go in the summer. I think United might look to keep him. I mean, to be honest with you, I would rather keep Cavani and Martial for another year and bring in a top-class centre defence midfielder and centre-back than lose Cavani and bring a striker in, because that will be better for the team. And we have got people, if Cavani and Martial don't do well, we have got Mason Greenwood. So I don't want a striker this summer. I would rather keep Cavani for another year. As much as, despite what I've just said there, I'd rather keep Martial and Cavani and Greenwood as our strikers next season, because if we create more chances, they will score more goals. But we're not going to create more chances if we don't have a decent centre-back and a decent CDM. Love it when you get riled and give it back to someone, says Jibak. Well, I'm not riled. I just think there are people out there that if you have an opinion a year ago, they bring it up now, and it's like, God, football. It's the one area of life that changes so fast. I mean, look. You talk to me about what I thought about our midfield a year ago. I'll talk to you about what I thought about Liverpool at Christmas. I thought Liverpool were going to win the league at Christmas. We're only at the start of March. What a prat I look now. But you look at where Liverpool were at Christmas, it looked like they had a very good chance of winning the league. Nobody would have predicted that now. Football changes so fast. You can have an opinion a week ago and change it now, because it changes so bloody fast. I thought Fred was brilliant. I thought Fred has been brilliant for us for a long time. I thought he's a bit underrated. I've seen in recent weeks, he's got absolutely no creativity. He's got absolutely no chance of scoring goals. He doesn't. I think Fred is a Newcastle midfielder, to be honest. I think it's taken me a bit of time to sort of realise that he's not actually going to develop into the player I thought he was going to be. Certainly not at 27, 28. He's a bench player, Fred, and I'm more than happy to have him as part of the squad, and I really do like Fred. And bench players are very important. I've always said that. And maybe McTominay's a bench player. Maybe Fred's a bench player. Maybe Lindelof's a bench player. But I'd be happy to have that quality of player on our bench, because they're players that you know that you can rely on, but you probably don't want to start. And I think that's, I'd need to build a bench. Shelby's better than Fred, says Benty. I would get a player like Soucek or Rice or Ndidi, says Carl Rogers. Well, Basuma at Wigan's a player. I mean, the only hope I've got that we might be looking for a CDM is that we were linked to that Casido, weren't we? So maybe it's a bit low key that we're looking for a CDM, but it's absolutely essential. We've got to bring somebody in. Just a little bit of news out of Madrid that you might be interested in. Varane, they're becoming increasingly concerned that Varane will leave Madrid in the summer. Not even for financial reasons now, more a change of scenery, a new challenge for Varane. Now, I've already said this. The centre-back situation is really interesting. We were speaking about Pau Torres yesterday. Man United are going to sign a centre-back. That's one thing I'm very confident about, is that we will sign a centre-back. And that's really weird to say, but I think we're nailed on to sign a centre-back. Who we're going to sign becomes interesting, because it could be Tyrone Mings. It could be Koulibaly. I don't know who it's going to be at this moment in time. There's a lot of stories out there. Torres is the flavour of the month at the moment. We've had Koundé. We've had Varane. I think there will be a lot of movement in the centre-back market this summer, and I also think that we could end up with a signing we're not sure about, or we could end up with something we're really happy about. I think surely, leaving names out of this for a moment, surely if you're going into a transfer market and there's a lot of centre-backs available, but you're Manchester United, what do you think? What do you think our centre-back signing should be? Do you think it should be a player that Man City wouldn't really want? Do you think it's a player that Man City would love to have? Or do you think it's a player Man City would absolutely adore to have? And I think you've got to go with that latter option. I think Man City would love Varane. They would love Koulibaly. They would love Koundé. And they're the three. They're the three we've got to go for. Do I think we'll get Varane? No. I think he'll end up at somewhere like PSG if he goes, or maybe Juventus. I don't think he'll end up at Manchester United. But that's the quality of player we should go for. And over to the board. That's all I can say about that. All over to the board. We also need to sell some players, says Paul Lucas. Well, there's value to be had. I mean, there's another story coming out that De Gea could go this summer. I think De Gea or Henderson have got to go. You'd hope to raise 40 million from that. Very difficult to raise 40 million from De Gea when he's on 375k a week. I don't know how we're going to do that deal. But if that's what the club decide to do, if they decide to go with Henderson, then that's not my choice. That's the club's choice. But what they have to do with that goalkeeping situation is raise 40 million, because that 40 million would be very, very useful. I mean, there's even talk of us signing goalkeepers. Like there's talk of us signing Donnarumma. We don't need to sign a bloody goalkeeper. Buy a goalkeeper that's happy to sit on the bench and never plays. Henderson or De Gea next season as our goalkeeper. One of them's got to go, but you've got to get 40 million for it. And because that 40 million can then go towards a centre-back, which frees up other funds for other positions. What we can't do is go into next season with those two goalkeepers. That would be ridiculous. And that would be counterproductive. So we've got to get one of those. Lingard's got to go. There's no point bringing Lingard back. Jesse, you need to go, mate. Not because anybody dislikes you. You're doing a great job. But you deserve to play first-team football, and you'll never play first-team football for Man United, because if you are playing first-team football for Man United, we're never going to win a title because you're not that level of player. Much the same as Fred. You're not. You'll end up on our bench, which many people and I would be happy to have you on the bench, but you won't play very often. So I think Lingard needs to go. There's value there. There's 20 million there. So we've got 60 million from a goalkeeper in Lingard straight away, plus about 80 million that we've got, 140 million there. Plus, we don't know what's happening with Pogba. So we can work really effectively in this transfer market. And we need to. We need to. Hypothetically, if you knew how Pogba would perform over 4 years, would you stay away from him? Says Mark Perez. Pep wanted Fred a few years back, Mark, says Vishal. Yeah, I don't think he would have. well, maybe Pep would have got something out of Fred. Maybe he saw something in Fred that we've not been able to get out of Fred. But I mean, I don't see how Fred would have worked at City. He can't pass and he can't shoot. Like he can't, like I say, you can't polish a turd. And I'm not calling Fred shit, but what I'm saying is something is what it is. If Pep could turn every player into Kevin De Bruyne or Gundogan, he'd just buy them for 5 million from Stoke. I don't know what Pep saw in Fred, because I just can't see how Fred would ever become anywhere near good enough to play for Man City. I think they dodged the bullet there. I'm not saying Fred's a bad player, by the way. I'm just saying in a Man City side that his pass and move and clever movement, I just don't think he doesn't. Does he strike you as that sort of player? I don't think he could be moulded into that either. Having watched Koundé a few times now, I don't think he's the answer, especially at 60 million, says Daniel Harding. Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying that, Daniel, in relation to Koundé last night. I'm a big fan of Koundé. I like him. I think he's well worth it. I don't judge players on a couple of games against Dortmund, which is clearly what a lot of people are doing. But I sleep easy. I'm not bothered. I would take Koundé at Manchester United. I would pay 60 million for him. I think he's exactly the sort of centre back that we need. And I think people just one day you cock of the walk and the next day you're in the bin. And I think that I'll be more than happy with Koundé, Varane or Koulibaly. Look, no one's going to be flawless. We're not buying Van Dijk because Van Dijk's the best centre-back in the world. But they'll be better than what we've got. A lot better than what we've got, definitely. What else? Varane, Fred, athletic, striker and centre-back. Okay. I wouldn't go anywhere near any British centre-backs. Mings, Dunk, White, piss off. The reality is, if you ask me what's England's best centre-back duo for the Euros, it's Maguire and Stones. So why would I buy an English centre-back when we've already got Maguire and we need better? So Maguire and Stones are the best centre-back pairing England can play in the World Cup, in the Euros. So why would we buy an English centre-back? Makes absolutely no sense, does it? We need better than Maguire. And that's not to drop Maguire. We need a better centre-back to play next to Maguire so that centre-back improves, that partnership improves. Why would you buy somebody worse than Maguire to play with him? And that's what we need. That's the benchmark, actually. We need somebody better than Maguire to play with Maguire, because that's improvement. We're trying to improve, not tread water. You've got to buy a centre-back that's better than what you've got. Otherwise, why are you buying players? I don't know whether Man United have this mentality, actually. When you're signing players, you need to buy better than what you've got. I mean, to me, it sounds absolutely obvious. But when you sign a player, they've got to be better than what you've got, or potential to be better than what you've got. If you're buying a younger player like Diallo, is probably not better than what we've got at the moment, but his graph is huge. So, thanks for the super chat, Andy and Bruno. Just doing a pointless super chat because that's what Zane does, says Mark. And have you seen Bastoni from Inter Milan? Good young centre back, doesn't get praise in my opinion, says Ross. I think it's very hard to bring in players from Serie A. I think in general it is and always has been. Mark, Koundé is not the answer. His ball recovery, his aggression and defensive IQ is too low. Tap sober is the answer. But Pravisha, I can't. And how can I come back? Somebody's already just said this, and I've just said in my opinion he is. So in Pravisha's opinion, Koundé's not good enough because he watched him for half an hour last night. In my opinion, Koundé is good enough, and I've been saying it for a long time based on a lot of watching him. So I'm more than happy that we go for Koundé. I don't think we will. But I don't think we won't go for him because they don't think he's good enough. I think they won't go for him because they don't want to spend that amount of money. They'll go for somebody cheaper, which is what they will do. I don't think we'll sign Varane. I don't think we'll sign Koulibaly. I don't think we'll sign Koundé, who are my top 3 targets. I think we will go down market cheaper. We'll go for more of a risk player. Maybe we will sign a Pau Torres, who we sign and becomes Van der Beek not playing, and everyone's going, why is he not playing? Why is he picking Magaluf again? And that's what I don't want to happen next year. I want a centre-back that goes straight into that team. If we buy Varane, he goes straight into that team. If we buy Koulibaly, he goes straight into that team. You buy Pau Torres and it'll be taking time to adapt, training really well, really valued member, putting the work in training, but you're picking Maguire and Lindelof again. Yeah. And people who don't think that happens, what's happened to Donny van der Beek this season? Have Fred and McTominay and Matic set the world on fire this season? Not really. Has Van der Beek played well when he's been given limited opportunity? Yes. Should Van der Beek have had more game time? Yes. Why has he not been given more game time? Don't really know. So we are more than capable of spending 40 million on a player and then not changing the team and going with players from last season. We need to sign Ruben Neves, says James. Ruben Neves is a player that comes up a lot, isn't it? I mean, I don't know why you talk about him. We've never been linked to him. We need a centre-back that has established themselves as a competitive league like the Premier League, such as La Liga, says Ollie. I don't rate La Liga anymore, Ollie. I don't. Torres is a good player, PL, but Torres reminds me of Van der Beek. He's the sort of signing that you make for 40 million and then he doesn't go into the team for ages. We need a centre-back right here, right now. We don't need a centre-back that's bedding in for a season while he sticks with Lindelof and Maguire. I mean, look, I've got to just come back to that point for a moment. It's going to take a hell of a lot for Ollie to drop Maguire and Lindelof as his centre-back pairing. He's stubbornly stuck by them this season. When all of you, when all our ex-players, when all of the media have said that they're the problem, Ollie has stuck by them all season. Do you think he's going to not stick by them next year just because you give him a £40 million centre-back? You're going to have to give him a centre-back that is so good they have to play. And that's the only way we're going to break Maguire and Lindelof. Because if you buy Tyrone Mings, Ben White, Badiashile, Pau Torres, I still think next season he will be picking Maguire and Lindelof. And if that's what you want, go and, hope for those sort of players. I'm not saying they're not good, but in my opinion, for that axis, I nearly said axis of evil, that's a bit unfair. For that axis at the back for our defence to be broken, it's got to be somebody who's clearly better than both. And that means spending 50, 60 million quid in this market. You need someone like Witsel, but younger. He controls the midfield very well. I tell you what, I would have loved Witsel. 3 or 4 years ago. He would have been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Definitely. I really would. Please smash a like on the video, by the way. We're nearly at 2,000 likes. And Ollie's press conference is at 1:30 today. So we'll be live at about 1:45 with that one. And then the evening show as well. So lots going on, of course, as ever. A little bit late on the show today, but not too late. So it's been okay. Couple of questions. Michael Keane, No. God, don't bring me any British centre-backs. I don't want any British centre-backs. No. We should get Neves. He'd be a revelation next to Pogba. I mean, I don't want to be dismissive of Ruben Neves. He's a very, very good player. But for some reason, we just don't really have much. We don't really have much connection with Wolves, do we? I mean, I know that we did have we have been linked to Martinez in the past, but no, I don't see it. Just breaking news coming in that Football Association of Wales has announced Ryan Giggs will not be involved in Wales' upcoming international camp. That's a bit weird. I presume this is all to do with this ongoing criminal charges. I don't think he's been charged. It's criminal investigation, which is it's a shame, really, because I'm not going to comment on that. Somebody just said, "Can you comment on that in the live comments?" I don't really want to comment on it because I haven't really read too much into what the criminal allegations are, but I'm sure there have been managers and players and that who've been. Well, Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire's still playing for Manchester United. He's part of quite serious criminal accusations. So I suppose if you're a manager, you're a role model for a country. I suppose I don't know. I'd have to look more into that before I said anything that makes me. I think at the moment my strategy on most things at the moment that are not really to do with Manchester United and are quite political is just to say I'm not getting involved either way because people are very passionate, as they should be. Koundé is fast and built like a tank, says Tyron. And surely you would have Joe Gomez over the fridge in the Euros next to Stones, says Sam Allen. Well, he's not fit, is he, Sam? And he's a Liverpool player, so we wouldn't be able to bring him in anyway. Do I think Cavani will stay, says Girish? I don't know. Why are people asking me if I'm doing a Barcelona watch-along? The game's dead, mate. The Barcelona game's dead. I'd rather do Liverpool-Leipzig. So I'll watch one of them. I might have them both on again. But yeah. I've enjoyed the show this morning anyway. Very passionate opinions, which is what it should be like. This is our club. Top clubs add class players, not sell them. Can we really blame Bruno if he's a winner and we aren't as a club? says Andy and Bruno. And on that bombshell, I think you're right. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We're back just after half-1 with Ollie's press conference reaction. So we'll get all the injury updates ahead of the big game against AC Milan tomorrow night. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit.